Now, what I want you to do, Audley, I want you to think of something that you want to do purely for you. Read a book, watch the footy, whatever, something that it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, have you got an example? What's something you want to do that's like indulgent?
Um, I like to binge shows on Netflix.
Yes. Okay. That's a great example. And anyone listening, whatever your example is, now imagine the show's just dropped. You've got it queued up. You're getting all ready.
Yeah.
And then your partner or your kids or your friend, somebody rings and says, could you just? And it doesn't matter what their thing is, bar an emergency. For anyone listening, if there's blood
Okay.
or bone, obviously go help the person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's something that's, just could you pick up my script? Could you go and get fruit? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to hold that little piece of paper. So the yes is facing them. The yes is facing outward. What's facing you? When the yes
So
is to them,
the yes is to them.
yeah, what's happening
I,
to you?
I'm seeing no.
So your Netflix binge session, it's a no because you've gone to help
No, but I want
others.
it. I
Yes,
really
so that's
want
why
it.
you've got to say no to them. So then you're saying yes to you.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to empower you to live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, and I truly appreciate you spending time out of your day to join us. Together, we'll explore the tools, insights, and inspiring stories that help you break free from limitations and embrace audacity that lies within you. Now, think of life as a beautifully crafted garden. Being nice is like planting flowers that look lovely but may not thrive. They may need constant care or attention in order to stay pretty. In contrast, being kind is like nurturing a diverse ecosystem that supports various plants, allowing them to grow and flourish in their own way. Similarly, setting boundaries is essential for creating a healthy garden. Start small, tending to one corner of your garden before expanding to others, and things like communication, it acts like the sunlight that nourishes your garden, helping both you and your relationships to thrive. Remember, self-respect is the rich soil that allows the garden to flourish. Without it, your garden may struggle to grow. And in today's episode, we're thrilled to welcome Suzanne Culberg. She's known as the Nope Coach and is an expert in helping individuals navigate the tricky waters of boundary setting and self-care. She hails from Sydney, Australia, and has dedicated her career to empowering people to say no to others and in turn to say yes to themselves. Through her coaching, podcast, and various resources, Suzanne provides practical tools to foster healthy relationships and personal growth. Her work is incredibly relevant to today's conversation as we delve into the intricacies of boundaries, self-respect, and the delicate balance between being nice and being kind. And there really is a difference. Her unique insights illuminates how we can cultivate our relationships without sacrificing our needs and our desires. And boundaries is a big thing for a lot of us. And I tell you, this really is an insightful conversation. So sit back, relax, and take in my chat with Suzanne Culberg. Enjoy. Hey, Suzanne, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Thank you for making the time for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Audley.
This is great to, again, I always say it's great to sort of engage in these kind of conversations to, can help individuals live that best audacious life that we talk about. And I think the opportunity to, engage in dialogue that will potentially make a difference in someone else's life is just it's a bit of a thrill for me. So I'm glad that this opportunity is here, and I appreciate. So again, I thank you, and I appreciate you for doing this. Now, I can hear on this podcast we very much talk about that journey that we take, and that journey for each of us is going to be different because it's uniquely designed for us, and it's going to have its own challenges, its own pitfalls, its own obstacles, things that potentially hold us back. Now, one of those things out there that is notoriously famous for impeding our pathway is the lack of boundaries in our lives. And when we look at our relationships with others, and a relationship without proper boundaries, it can become very problematic in everyone's lives, and can really knock you off your course or off your intended path if you're not mindful of that. So and so as a nope coach, you're very clear on helping people understand that, and set boundaries up for themselves, and be able to live freer lives. I think that's really one of the things that having proper boundaries do. So maybe as a starting point, Suzanne, I'll get you to introduce yourself to our audience, and maybe talk a bit about your work and what's gotten you to the point that you're at now.
100%. So my name's Suzanne Culberg. I'm the Nope coach, Nope. Although I love journaling, it's not the note coach. And
Okay.
people often ask why I went nope and not no. I'm Australian. So apparently to you guys, when I say no, it sounds like no.
Okay. Okay.
So nope is clean. But I basically help people say no to others so they can say yes to themselves. Because so often, no, depending on how you're brought up and your conditioning, but no is seen as a bad word. Good girls and good boys, they say yes, they're polite, they're nice. And it's funny, I live on the corner of my block is a childcare centre. And when I walk to and from school, dropping my son off at primary school, we walk past it. And I came past just yesterday, and I heard one of the carers saying to the child, little Johnny, that wasn't his name, but be nice and tell him you're sorry. And I just thought, isn't it funny? We're conditioned from such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever it was, taking the toy, whatever, I bet you anything little Johnny wasn't sorry. But it's just like, and also too, it's like, be nice. And I'm not saying that we should be entitled. Like, there's a whole bunch of keyboard warriors and people who flip to the other end of the pendulum when they're anonymous. Like, that's
Sure.
not healthy either. But it's kind of like, I love how Brene Brown says, clear is kind. And if someone says to you, like, I want an apology or whatever, and you're honestly not sorry, and you hear them saying, sorry, I just don't think that's a healthy way to move things forward either. So basically, what I do is help people in all sorts of situations, because boundaries are everywhere. We have them in the workplace, especially as entrepreneurs. How many entrepreneurs leave the 9 to 5 to work 24/7? It's like boundaries with ourselves, boundaries with our family, boundaries with our children, and basically so that we can speak up for ourselves and also have relationships and connections with others.
Mm-hmm. How did you land on this? It's been fascinating. I mean, I think the work is beautiful, but I'm curious how you got here.
Well, I had no boundaries. It's funny. I was the very definition of a people pleaser. However, at the time, I wouldn't have considered myself a people pleaser. I just thought I was a good friend. I just thought I was generous. And I think knowing definitions of things, I'm really fascinated. Like, generosity is giving from the overflow, or is giving from a place of you having enough.
Okay.
Whereas overgiving, it's kind of like, it's not generous if it's depleting you. It's not generous if you're exhausted. It's not generous if it's putting you out. Like, if I'm driving my kid to school and I see you walking down the street, and I pull over and say, hey, Audley, where are you going? I'm going to the shops. Want a lift? Because it's next door. That's generous. Hop in. But if you're like, I'm going to the airport, and I'm like, so I've got to take my kid to school, got to fight across traffic and go 2 hours out of my way, that's not generous. That's, that's giving too much. So I gave too much always. And then what happened was, and this is where I take responsibility for myself, in my head, I had this kind of checks and balances kind of situation happening. Like, I've done all of this for you. Now when it's my turn, and not that you do it to tally it up, but it starts to happen. You think, oh, I take her to the airport, I help her with the groceries, I lend her this. And then it's time that you need something and you say, hey, could you help me with this? And they just say no, or ghost you, or don't respond. And it's just like, after all I've done for you.
Right.
And that phrase still comes to me to this day. Whenever I catch that, I'm like, that's some work for me to do. Because somehow, because a person with really clean and great boundaries, there is no checks and balances. They say no, and then you kind of get all offended. And you're like, how dare they? After all I've done for them. And it's like, they're really good about where they can and what they can't do.
Yep.
And then when you're in a people-pleasy place, that can really hurt to be on the receiving end of it. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like if you really want something done, like if you want to get to the airport and you ask a friend and they say no, you could catch a train. You might not want to, but you could hire an Uber, might cost you the earth. You could walk. Not saying that that's convenient, but I
Right.
think sometimes when someone says no to us and we make it mean this ginormous thing about how they don't care about us or whatever, and it's like, no, they're just really clean. And I had situations like for me personally, it's on the about page of my website. I'm a sweary fairy, so I'll keep it clean. But basically, I was at a mother's group meeting. I was
Okay.
in a bathroom and I overheard someone asking somebody for something. And she's like, "Oh, I forgot you don't have a car." And she's like, "Oh, Suzanne will drive me. She's my little beep." And I was like, it stung to overheard that. It was like, oh my
Wow.
goodness, that saying the truth hurts. I
Mm,
remember sitting there in the toilet stall, like just like, ouch. And also, but she was right. I would literally drop everything for this person.
right.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want to live like that anymore.
Mm, mm. I think the truth hurts is yeah, you bang on it. Totally does, and the realization it helps. So in that instance, it helps you sort of recognize what was happening, and and you'd like to, maybe that's a wake up call you like to get, maybe in a nicer way perhaps, but it's an important wake up call, and then it's obviously it's what you do afterwards what really counts, what really matters, right? Where you take it, how you choose to accept it, what you do with it. And so it sounds like you really realize, okay, no, I've got to make some changes here.
100%. And I think I love your point there, how you choose to accept it. And I've heard you talk a lot about acceptance on your show. And I think the key point, the difference between acceptance and resignation. Like resignation's, oh dear, yeah, I'm the one everyone takes advantage of. I call it like my Eeyore moments from Pooh Bear. I said that to my kids and they're like, who? And I was like, oh, I'm sure of my age. They don't know. I've never watched Winnie the
I-
Pooh.
I'm with
But
you. I get it. I'm with you.
it's like, oh dear. So the resignation of like, this is my lot in life. I'm
Yeah.
the one that everyone comes to fix their problems or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you could have that resignation, or you could choose to accept up until now, this is the way things have been, but I get to decide here on forward how my life is like. And when you start to set boundaries with some people, like when you stop people pleasing, some people are not pleased.
Right.
But the people that you call in, the people who've never known a different version of you, they having a friend with great boundaries is excellent. If you ring them up and say, "Hey, are you interested in this?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, thanks. I'd rather watch paint dry." Like they might not be that direct. It depends how good your friendship is, but it's so much better than, "Yeah, sure." And then on the day that, oh, I don't feel like it. Like, to be really clean. This is what I like to do. This is what I don't like to do. You know, rather than doing something just because it's what the other person wants to do, because you begin to sense that after a while, and that's becomes very one-sided.
Got you. Got you. A part of off the top when you talked about what you do, you say no to other people but yes to ourselves. I think that's a really key phrase in this, that you are saying your yes to yourself, not and I almost want to like bold that and make it like a larger font, because that to me is really the key in all of this, what you're doing for yourself by saying no to others.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, and if you've got one handy, you might be out for a walk or whatever, but if you're sitting down or if you've got one handy, orderly, grab out a scrappy piece of paper. Doesn't need to be fancy. I dare anyone who's a journaler to tear it out of your book, and then on one side of it, if you've got a pen, write yes, and then flip it over on the other side, write no. Give you a moment to do that.
Pen now these days.
And if you're walking or driving or whatever, I really encourage you to do this when you get home. Like you're going to understand because you're going to listen through this exercise. But sometimes we think, oh, yeah, I get it in my head, but the actual physicality of having it. Now, what I want you to do, Audley, I want you to think of something that you want to do purely for you. Read a book, watch the footy, whatever, something that it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, have you got an example? What's something you want to do that's like indulgent?
Um, I like to binge shows on Netflix.
Yes. Okay. That's a great example. And anyone listening, whatever your example is, now imagine the show's just dropped. You've got it queued up. You're getting all ready.
Yeah.
And then your partner or your kids or your friend, somebody rings and says, could you just? And it doesn't matter what their thing is, bar an emergency. For anyone listening, if there's blood
Okay.
or bone, obviously go help the person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's something that's, just could you pick up my script? Could you go and get fruit? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to hold that little piece of paper. So the yes is facing them. The yes is facing outward. What's facing you? When the yes
So
is to them,
the yes is to them.
yeah, what's happening
I,
to you?
I'm seeing no.
So your Netflix binge session, it's a no because you've gone to help
No, but I want
others.
it.
Yes,
I really
so that's
want
why
it.
you've got to say no to them. So then you're saying yes to you. And I think this is so powerful because so many of us, and also, as I said, bar an emergency.
Sure,
Like
sure.
I have this little bit of paper all around my house. Right now we're recording this. It's early in the morning. My kids are getting ready for school. I have it outside with a no, outside my office door. And
Yeah,
they know that they can come in here if there's emergency, if they're bleeding, if there's bone showing,
sure.
like if I need to take them to a hospital,
Yep,
let's go. But
yep.
bar that, they can't come in here because I'm doing something that's important to me.
Yes.
And then I do this all the time. And then say later in the day, I might just be doing email responding or back office stuff. So the piece of paper will be on a yes. So they can interrupt if needed. But,
Mm,
and the reason this piece of paper is so powerful is I also do this when I'm with my kids. So say my kids and I are playing soccer, or they're more playing, I'm watching, I'm not very coordinated. But I'm actually watching.
sure.
If my phone pings, dings, bings, whatever, I'm not getting it out of my pocket. No judgment to people who do. And the reason this happened and this came about is one day I was in the park. My son was 4.
Hmm.
I was going down the slide. Look at me, mummy. Look at me. If you've got young kids, you know.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
great for the first time, but the 100th
That's right.
time, you're just like, seriously. And I was always responsive to my phone every time there was a
Sure.
notification. And he looked at me and he said, you love your phone more than me.
Wow.
And my heart broke. And also I could see why he thought that. So like I have these boundaries that when I'm working 100%. And when I'm with my
Sure.
kids, I'm with my kids 100%. And then we have this focused attention. And also when I'm doing my own thing, if I'm watching Married at First Sight, I don't think you guys have that in Canada, maybe 90 Day Fiance, trash TV. If
Yes,
I'm
yes.
watching my trash
Lots of
TV,
that. Lots of that.
I'm not to be interrupted. And then it just allows us to put ourselves first because I want to do this for one episode. I don't think I could handle a whole season of that in one day. That would be, my brain would melt. But do you know what I mean? Like, and just that little bit of paper for whatever it is that you're doing because it's important to you. And someone
Hmm.
else's, could you help me with my homework? Can we build this diorama? We've run out of fruit? It's not an emergency.
Right, right, right. No, so I think it's a great exercise and a really good way of helping people frame in their minds what we're exactly talking about and what no to ourselves really means. Especially when there's something you absolutely want, that you're excited about it, and when you say no to that, and let's say I've built the time for my Netflix binge session. Like I set aside that time. I got up this morning. I did things early. I want to make sure I have that time, that part of the day for me, and I've done that. And then turn around to say no to myself. People need to understand why that is, and maybe um, not everyone sees it as setting boundaries. They don't recognize that, make that correlation. Oh, I'm setting a boundary. They're saying I'm saying yes, or I'm just saying no. But I think with every yes or no, you in fact aren't setting, or truly are setting a boundary.
100%. And often the boundaries with ourselves, the things that we value, because to someone else, like my husband wouldn't watch Married at First Sight if it was the last TV show ever. He would literally, I could get him to do so many things if I wanted to. Like he would paint the fence, he would do anything else. Like that is of no interest to him. But it is to me. So if he decides he wants to do a DIY project in my time that I've set aside for this, I think that's sometimes when we just override ourselves. And then we wonder why we get to the end of the day, we're staying up late, we've got no appreciation for tomorrow, we're binge watching and usually binge eating, and then we're kind of Googling what's the best diet or what's the best sleep app or what is the
Right.
best like time management system. And it's like, from my point of view, like I said, not everyone has to agree with me, but from my point of view, a lot of these stuff happens because we don't carve out and protect our time for ourselves in whatever way that looks. We
Right.
kind of let everyone else's priorities override it. I had my sister visit not about a year ago now, and she lives interstate. So I live in Sydney. My family's from Tasmania, that tiny
Yep.
little island down the bottom of Australia. She was
Yep.
going to the netball. It's about 40 minutes from here, depending on
Okay.
traffic, could be
Okay.
longer. And she had a hired car. And I said to her, whatever you do, book parking. In Sydney, if you do not book parking, you will not be able to get, you won't be able to get parking there. And anyway, she's like, yeah. Get to the day. I'm like, so you've got the parking booked? And she's like, no. I said, you won't get a park there. And she's like, oh. what am I going to do? I said, we can catch a train. Like, I personally catch a train everywhere. I love public
Sure.
transport. I can listen to the podcast. I can zone out. I don't have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And she's like, can't you drive me? And in past would have been like, yeah, sure. And it's like, yes, I could drive her, but I had other things on. And your inability to be organized, not my problem. So I was like, no, I can't drive you. And she's like, but I don't want to catch the train. I was like, I don't know, catch an Uber then. Oh, I don't want to pay that much. And it's so funny. Like, it's such a mundane example, but how often do people, especially loved ones, expect us to inconvenience ourselves? And some of you might be
Yeah.
listening and go, Suzanne, you're such a cow. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But if I drive her to the netball and then I drive home and then I drive back and get her and then I drive home,
Yeah.
that's my entire day gone because she wasn't organized.
That's right. And
No.
I'll tell you something. I love that example because I think it perfectly illustrates how people will sometimes make their problems ours. And when we don't have those boundaries in place, they become our problems, and we now feel the onus to be the solutioner. And
Yes.
you know, that's a beautiful illustration because your problem isn't mine. Like, sorry, I didn't do it. I got nothing to do with it. Let me
I
go watch
even
my
do this with
Netflix.
my kids. My children are young. One's in primary school, one's just started high school. Last year, we walked to school. My son rides his scooter. We get to the gate. I look at him. I'm like, where's your school bag, dude? And he's like, oh, I've left it at home. And I'm like, we have one vehicle between my husband and I. He's taken it into the office. I'm like, I'm not walking home to get your bag and walking back. I'm like, today you're gonna have to learn the art of asking your friends, can you borrow a pencil? You're gonna have to. I obviously I didn't make the kids starve. So anyone listening to this, fortunately, I love how we have like a canteen, and you guys call it cafeteria app.
Yeah,
So I jumped
yeah.
on there and I ordered him some lunch. So he had food, but apart from that, I was like, everything else you're going to have to borrow. And also, I don't know what your sun safety is like over there, because I don't know, you guys see the sun, but here, no sun, no outside. So I'm like, you're going to have to spend your lunchtime inside. I'm sorry for that. But he's never forgotten his bag again, I'll tell you that.
There we go. There we go.
Because
So he
also
learned a
too,
lesson
when
in the
we're the
process.
solutioner,
Yeah.
we're the solutioner and the person doesn't have the follow through of their consequences, then they're more likely to do it again. Like the next time my sister visits, I bet you anything she books parking.
Well, and so we're actually helping people be better if you think about it. Like we truly are. If we're coming in and saving all the time, knocking down our boundaries and giving up our personal stuff, and being the solution to the problem they created, we're not doing no one any favors. But if we don't, they said to your sister, she'll do parking and never have that problem again.
And my daughter, like, she has homework now in high school and stuff, like much more than primary school. And I remember her coming to me at 10 o'clock at night as I'm getting into bed, going, I've got homework. I was like, cool. When's it due? She's like, tomorrow. I'm like, we're not going to get that done, are you? Do you know what I mean? And some people are like, that's so horrible. I'm like, no. Me staying up past 10 o'clock building a diorama for a kid who wasn't prepared is not helping anyone. But now when she gets homework, first thing she does when she comes in the door is like, I need to do this. Like, this is the time to ask me. This is when I'm available. This is what boundaries are. I'm available to help you with stuff immediately after school and just after dinner. And then it's married at first sight time. Whatever it is, can wait till tomorrow.
There we go. There we go. There's a part of those who have difficulty setting boundaries that struggle with the idea of being a bad person or not being nice. How do you get over that?
Well, I think back to that point, like being nice, and it makes me think of that down the road, like, say sorry and be nice. I'm not nice. Like, I've just kind of really resolved myself to that, but I am kind. Like, kind is, here is when I'm available and here is when I'm not, and communicating that. And kind is in service to somebody having, like my kid not handing their homework in, or my kid not having the materials they need for the day. I honestly think that is kinder for them to learn the consequences of not being prepared or not taking your things, or, while they're a kid, and it doesn't really mean anything, then when they're an adult trying to go to a job interview or they're going to get fired. Like, I think sometimes it's like, we are not nice, but nice is like, it's a button on Facebook. It's something you click. It's like
Right.
kind and compassion and having this bigger picture connection. And also too, from my people pleaser days, that friend that had the bathroom stall incident, once I stopped doing everything for her, we no longer were friends. And if your friendships and relationships and connections are built on you being nice and doing everything for everyone all the time,
Yeah.
it's kind of like sometimes you got to let people go, and it does hurt. But it's amazing how the majority of people, like, I remember when I started saying no to things, my husband was like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I'd be the kind of person, he'd be like, where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know,
Mhm.
you decide. This is past me. And he'd be like, okay, let's get Chinese. Oh, I don't want Chinese. Okay, let's go Mexican. No, we had Mexican last month. Oh, and then he'd just, I just like, it must have been so hard to live with me, because I was like, I didn't want to make a decision, but also I just didn't want to do anything else. So if he's like, hey, where do you want to go for dinner? It's like, give me a minute. Let's get Italian. Okay, let's get, do you know what I mean? So when you
Yep.
have boundaries and you get to make decisions, you're actually so much more fun to be around. Or if someone says, hey, do you want to go and watch whatever movie it is? Like, say there's a new Captain America or something out as we're recording this. And
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to go and see an action movie. What else is on? And then you can find something you both want to do. Or I don't want to go to the movies. Let's go bowling, or I don't know, insert the thing. Because sometimes when we say, ask me next time, and you've really got no intention of doing it, or it doesn't interest you, that's where a lot of friendships and stuff, because if you're asking
Sure.
someone all the time, you're initiating, and they're always putting it off, it gets to a point where you think, maybe they don't like me, when
Sure.
really they don't like going to the movies, or they don't like origami folding, or whatever it is that you're asking them to do. So to be really
Mhm.
clear, thank you so much. I appreciate this. I'd love to do something, not down for a movie. What else could we do? It opens it up so much more. But yeah, being nice, doing something to be nice. If you invite me to the movies and I go, oh, I want to be nice, Audley wants to see Captain America, and I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, I can't stand this. That is not nice to either of us, because imagine down the line, how many Marvel movies are there? Like 40. If I say offhandedly to you one day, or we're in a group, and I'm like, I can't stand action movies, you're like, what? You've come and seen 40 Marvel movies with me. That's not nice. And I've got an example. So my mum one day bought like goose placemats or something. I
Okay.
can't remember what started it.
Okay.
And my sisters and I were convinced that she loved geese. So we bought every Mother's Day, birthday, Christmas, geese salt and pepper shakers, geese oven mitts, geese clock. Like, our house was like goose central. And then one day, out of pure frustration, my mum's like, I don't like geese. And we're all like,
Huh?
what? And I think this is where people pleasers, like doormats, become exploding doormats, because she was so
Yes.
nice for so long and didn't say anything. The whole house is kitted out until we find out she doesn't actually like that. It would have been nice in the beginning if she said, hey, I saw these placemats. Maybe they're on sale. I don't know.
Sure.
And we make assumptions. And then because we're nice, we don't speak up until we explode.
It kind of makes me think that maybe we should get in the practice of saying like no more often, like instead of saying yes as often as we do, right?
Well, think of something Easter or Christmas or something where there tends to be some sort of tradition. It's tradition. And I remember when I was a kid, I loved white chocolate. Just
Yeah.
like we have white, milk, dark.
Yep.
And I liked white chocolate. And then I don't know what happened when I was about 20, I didn't like it anymore. And I remember saying clearly to my mum and my family, love this so much, thank you. Loved it as a kid. I don't actually like white chocolate anymore. So in future, can you get me milk? You know? And oh, I remember my dad getting so mad at me. He's like, how unappreciative are you? And I'm like, but wouldn't you rather buy me something that I actually wanted?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I didn't chuck it on the ground and stomp at it. I didn't throw it back at you. Like, I think, it's like, oh, it's nice. But if you're nice, you don't get what you want.
Mm, mm. Well, yeah, again, I guess it really has to. It'd be interesting to look at why is it so important for people to be nice, like want to be seen as being nice, right? Again, you
Yes.
can be kind, right, but you don't have to be nice. And I think I'd be curious why that is, if you will.
That is such a great question, because the thing is, at the end of the day, I guess it depends on what you and how you define nice.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
me, if I was buying you something, because what do? We buy something because we think they love it. Like, my son is the world's best receiver. It's incredible. And also, people tend to give him random things from random people. I kid you not, one day we were out in the city, and live in Sydney, and
yep.
someone gave him an electric toothbrush, new in plastic, before anyone freaks out. It was brand new. It was a
Okay, okay.
Batman electric toothbrush. And I was like, what a random thing. Anyway, he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But, he's a really good, like, receiver. And I think, we are conditioned to be nice, but what is the long-term ramifications? Like, if I'm never going to see this person again, and like the guy who gave him an electric toothbrush, because we didn't know who it was, thank you so much. Whether or not he used it, he received it nicely, and kindly. But with people in our lives, like our loved ones, I think that's so weird. It's, what is nice? Is nice to say thank you for something that you're never going to use. Or
Right.
imagine like a doily or a vase or something that you can't stand. You're like, oh, Auntie M's coming over. Grab out that ugly vase. Do you know what I mean? It's like, is that nice? Or is it nicer to say, thank you so much. I really appreciated that you went to the effort. What I'd prefer for future is,
Yep.
and then let them know, because why are they giving you something? Because they
That's
want
right.
to give you a gift. It's not nice to say you love it when you don't.
And that's exactly it. It's funny, you're trying to be nice, but you're not really being nice in the end, right? Yeah, look at
Yeah,
that.
if I knew that when I came over, you were running around grabbing everything that I gave you because, and you never use it the rest of the time, I don't want to clutter your house with stuff you don't use. That's not
Mhm.
nice to me.
Let's talk about the process of setting boundaries, and families, friends, loved ones. Everyone's got to have boundaries set. Um, what does that process look like?
The best way I can describe it is if you imagine a physical gym and
Hmm.
people are doing their bicep curls, and
Yep.
you go in and you see the really fit people and they're curling like 20 or 30 pounds or whatever, and you're at this stage where you're kind of a couch potato and it's a struggle for you to lift up the 2 pound ones, don't go straight to the big rack, because that's going to result in injury. Because sometimes people to listen to a podcast like this and they say, Suzanne, you make it sound so easy. And then I go and try and do that. And, it doesn't work. It's like you need to build up the muscle. So if you have really poor boundaries and you haven't set boundaries with anyone, I really encourage you, instead of starting with your nearest and dearest, because your friends and family know this version of you for years, potentially
Yes.
decades, and it's going to take some time. You're not going to say to them once, this is how I'd like things, and they're going to remember forevermore. Like, it was a
No.
good decade before my family got on board that I didn't actually like white chocolate anymore. It was so funny. Every year, it's like, but you love white chocolate. I'm thinking, yeah, when I was 6, but not like toning down the frustration. So starting with people who don't know you yet. So think of something, for anyone listening, that you always say yes to. So for me, I'm a sucker for the add-on sale. Like, if I go somewhere, would you like fries with that? Would you like a corn cob? Do you want a bag? Do you want to donate to whatever? Like, I was an easy mark. I just said yes to everything. So start with that. Like,
Mm.
would you like a bag? No, thank you. I've brought my own. Or no, thanks. I'm happy to carry it.
Right.
Or start with really easy things. Like, do you want a corn cob? No, thanks. It's so easy. In the beginning, depending on how much of a people pleaser you are, that'll be challenging. Remember the first time I said no to something in a restaurant? I was like, and then I was
Deep
like,
breath.
now it's just so easy. So
Deep
start
breath.
that,
Yeah.
build your reps up. And when
Mm.
you start it with your family, best way to set boundaries with anyone in your family is, first of all, make sure you have their full attention. I remember when I started trying to set boundaries with my husband, he'd be on the Xbox. I could tell the guy I wanted to go to Antarctica when he's on the Xbox, and he'd be like, yeah, sure, honey. Do you know what I mean? It's not paying me
Right.
any mind.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
make sure you have their full attention. And something that I think, 3 words that will change it: up until now. Up until now, we've stayed up to midnight doing your homework whenever you're disorganized or whatever.
Mm.
From here on forward, I need your homework immediately after school, or whatever it is. So, like, set this thing.
I love that.
Then, as you've said it, say, like, your language will depend on your situation. So, like, if it's my kids, I might say, so, like, what did I just say? Or, how does that land for you? So you get
Sure.
clear that they actually understood, like, get them to repeat back, but not in a tell me what I just said kind of
Mm,
way, but in
mm,
a,
mm.
like, how does that land? Because sometimes there might be a bit of negotiation
Sure.
there.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
And then, when they invariably forget, because to you it's like, just for this moment, whatever, to them, they go back on and they forget the next day. Don't get mad. Just kindly remind. And sometimes it might take a couple of days, a couple of
Yes.
weeks, a couple of months. Like, I work for myself. My parents, my mum's passed now, but she never understood why she couldn't ring me at any time. She's like, but you work
Hmm.
for yourself. Can't you just answer the phone? So what I set the boundary with them is, if you want to talk to me, love to talk to you. Can you send me a text and I'll ring you back when I have a break?
Right.
Because what they would do is they'd ring and they'd ring and they'd ring and they'd ring, and I'd get off a call like this, see 27 missed calls, and go, oh gosh, who's died? Because that's where my
That's right.
brain
That's
goes.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yep. No,
So
that makes
it's
sense.
kind of like that boundary took probably a good 2 years
Oh
to
wow.
instill. And then it was great. Like my mum would just message me in the morning, love to chat to you today, honey, ring me when you've got a message. Her learning to text was a whole thing, but she got there.
Yeah.
You know?
They do eventually
But
get there.
it's kind of like, what is it that you would like? What is it that they would like? How can you meet in the middle? And reminding them a couple of times. Because if you're the one who's always done the laundry, always mowed the lawn, always helped with the homework, whatever, and it's just become a routine, it's become a neural pathway, it's ingrained, this is what you do. And if you're like, up until now, I've been the one, but from here on forward, I'd like us to balance the load, or however you work it. Knowing that a few reminders is normal. They don't hate you. They're not out to get you. People forget. It happens.
Yes.
And then
especially when the habits are continuous, right? The continuous habits, easy to forget.
Be open to be surprised how so many people aren't that offended, affronted, or whatever. Like, yeah, cool. Like, it just, and it's just amazing, because sometimes you think, oh, they're not going to like this, and it's just not that much of an inconvenience most of the time. Be willing to be surprised about how easy it will be, but there will be a couple who'll be resistant, and there may be some people that you've got to let go, and that might hurt. But then you get to decide and journal and reflect. Do you want people who are only in your life because of what they can get from you?
Got you. Up until now, I like that a lot. Up until now. Because it acknowledges what went on, but it also signals a change, right? Up until now.
Yeah. And then just remind it, like, clearly remind, this is not how we do things anymore. And sometimes things might need to shift. Like, you might have an idea in your mind. So like with my daughter helping with homework and stuff, for me, ideally, immediately after school, she's got home, let's get this done. But she actually wants to decompress and whatever.
Sure.
So now it's kind of like after dinner, but in that 1 hour window there, not just before bed, because I don't want to be like solving quadratic equations at 10 p.m. because here I am madly Googling it, trying to work out what's this again. No.
No, I get it. Yeah, up until now, I like that. And you said you talked about negotiating. Sometimes you got to negotiate. That's not a bad thing, is it? Negotiating.
Not at all. Negotiating is not a bad thing, because sometimes, I don't know, anyone email me, info@suzanneculberg.com, if you've had this experience, because I know I haven't, where you've planned something, it's worked perfectly, and it's never changed, the pathway or the plan. Right, so like when you start to think about a boundary that you'd like, and then you start to put it into practice, you might go, it's actually not working for either of us. So that negotiating, or that moving around, or that flexibility, and it's like, a boundary isn't a barricade. It's not a big steel fence, 10-ton weight thing. It's porous. It can shift. So you could be like, with my children, and this is an example I'm sure lots of people have, on the weekend, I'm a bit more flexible with their bedtime than I am on school nights. Boundaries can be like that too. When we go on holidays, I'm a bit more flexible, or at Christmas time, but as long as both parties are in agreement on that.
Sure. Got it. No, it makes perfect sense. And I love and I certainly do appreciate the manner in which you've broken that down, because I think people understand when they're digestible in the steps, if you will. And so it's like, okay, but I do think it's an interesting conversation, and it's one that's it's because it's very much an individualized journey, right? You as an individual got to get to that place where it's like, okay, something has to change. Preferably, it's not when things are not going well for you, or you're on the negative end of it, right? Like, you want to be able to identify that early on and make those changes early on, because that will really, what it does more than anything else, it really helps to allow relationships to flourish, because one person isn't feeling slighted any longer, or holding feelings as a result of, and everyone is essentially getting what they want, and that will only help the relationship be even more better.
I think a really way to sum that up is, what you allow will continue, because sometimes we think, oh, just this once. Like, as I said, there's a difference between you actively choosing to be porous with your boundary because it's the weekend or it's a holiday or whatever, or you not feeling comfortable to speak up and reaffirm it. So you're like, oh, just this once. And as soon as you start that, what you allow will continue, then you never get your Netflix show binged, or your Married at First Sight watched, or your cross stitch done, or whatever. Like, I'm an avid reader. I read at least 2 fiction books a week. Okay. People are like, how do you read so much? I'm like, because I have really good boundaries. Like, when it's my reading time, it's my reading time. I don't care what anyone else has going on. Like, if I have to inconvenience others, then they can be inconvenienced. And the other thing too is, givers have to have boundaries, because takers don't have any. Like, You know, it's amazing when you see, I don't know, like when they have like giveaways or prizes, or you're at a fair and they chuck something into the audience and people scrabble at it like kids going for a what's he call that thing that you hit with a stick? And they put the lollies in it. I'm trying to think. There's a name for that. Pinata. If a pinata explodes, everyone runs to grab the stuff. Like, oh, what can I get? Or if there's a prize draw or something, like, what can I get? But like, I am very generous, yes. But then this is my boundary. I have that with my work. It's like, I do my podcast for free. I interview for free. I have thousands of hours of material. I have a newsletter. These are the things that are for free. But when people are like, can I just pick your brain? Yeah, you can book a consult. Like, you can have a paid thing. Oh, well, I just want to pick your brain. It's like, well, I've got podcast episodes for that. Like, I create for free and everywhere, but I curate. Like, when you're like, I want specific help, that's where you hire me. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, but I just wanted to ask a question. And it's cool. Well, you can send me an email and I might turn it into a podcast or an episode or a resource. But me spending my time in the DMs, I don't DM at all now, is not useful, I think, to the bigger service of my business.
I love it. No, and again, you're practicing what you're preaching, right? So that's exactly what that is. I love that. Maybe you can let our listeners, you mention your podcast, and let our listeners know where they can check that out. What's it about?
My podcast is called The Nope Coach. So it's on Apple,
True to brand,
Spotify, and all that sort of stuff. It has like 450 something episodes. If you look at it and it looks daunting, if you go to YouTube, so if you type Suzanne Culberg or The Nope Coach into YouTube, then you can search it by playlist. So I have a playlist on boundaries, people pleasing, sensitivity, like there's like 21 playlists there. Scam, questionable business practices, whatever, you name it, I've got a playlist on it. It might be easier to navigate the content that way. But podcast, I just love it. And as I said, I've hundreds of episodes, so I'm bound to have something.
I love it. For listeners that want to learn more about you or catch up with you directly, where can we send them, Susan?
Best place is my website, suzanneculberg.com. If you go /contact, I'd love to hear what you took away from this episode. If you've got any questions, I actually think the contact page is the most fun page on my website. I'm so bored when I go here and it's like, here's just send me a message. So if you want to be entertained, whether or not you send me a message, check out my contact page, because I believe if it's not fun, I won't do it.
I love it. I'm all about the post. I'm with you. Suzanne, this has been fun, and I really appreciate the time here. I think it's insightful. I love the work, and again, I love what it does in terms of setting up ourselves for success in our relationships. So thanks for that, and thank you for being a guest today here on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Back we are here on the podcast. Much thanks and appreciation goes out to Suzanne for being here. During our conversation, she highlighted the importance of recognizing the difference between being nice and being kind. And again, there is a distinct difference we need to be mindful of. She emphasized that being nice often leads to people-pleasing behaviors that can drain us, while kindness allows us to establish healthy boundaries that foster mutual respect. I loved how she illustrated the concept of boundaries with a simple yet effective analogy. Just as we start a small in a garden, we can begin to set boundaries in manageable situations, gradually expanding our comfort zones. This approach not only empowers us but also encourages open communication in our relationships. If you want to dive deeper into Suzanne's work or connect with her directly, visit her website at suzanneculberg.com or check out the contact details in the show notes below. I encourage you to reach out to her and don't hesitate to do so. She loves hearing from her listeners, and Suzanne has some exciting resources available, including a free downloadable guide on how setting boundaries and self-care practices are important. Make sure to check those out in the show notes as well. I want to thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. I hope you found inspiration and actionable insights to help you live more audaciously. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share with someone who may benefit from our conversation. If you haven't already done so, your support helps our podcast to grow and reach even more individuals seeking to live their best audacious lives. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.